The skills to be a leader are almost the polar opposite of the skills that it takes to be a producer. And it is very likely that many of you are still operating like a producer, even if you are in a management or leadership position. So I hope what we cover here today will give you a significant advantage in growing your businesses and building your teams across the Middle East, or for those of you that are trying to influence others globally. So the first question that was posed to me is this: is management a position or a concept? And I understand that you're interested in knowing what are those core competencies of a manager. So here's the reality. Most people put into a position of management or leadership really shouldn't be there. They were promoted there, or they were maybe appointed there, as I understand people are in your region. And usually they're appointed or promoted for the wrong reasons. Usually it was based on the fact that they were really smart, right? They got good grades in school, they earned a fancy degree, or they were appointed to that management position. Or maybe they were really great producers. They did a great job in a previous job role, and then that's what got them appointed to a management position. But being intellectually smart or being a great producer in a job role, that does not make for a great manager or a great leader. In fact, it's often because they are so smart or so good at the producing part of a previous job role that it makes them a bit bossy or righteous or micromanaging or dysfunctional as a manager or a leader. While they were and always had good intentions, their learned and conditioned behavior through schooling and through experience really only oppresses and alienates and disempowers others. There's actually a term for this, and it's called the producing manager syndrome. And how do I know about this syndrome? Because I had the same problem myself. I started out selling products door to door and then selling real estate, and through really just brute force, extreme effort, personal determination, and just outworking everybody else around me, I became a successful producer. But when I started building my media companies, I then needed to recruit and lead other people to do most of the work. And this is when I ran into big problems. I learned quickly that there's a radical difference between being a producer and being a leader of other people who you need to produce in order to gain the result that you want. And quite frankly, not now having mentored thousands of CEOs and business leaders, people in positions of leadership, most of them still suffer this problem as well. They got to the position of being a leader because they were really great at managing themselves. They were really great at producing themselves, but they never learned how to manage and lead other people doing the work. They never made the transition. Most still lead like producers, which is why they get caught up in that micromanaging. They have a hard time delegating, and they become the bottleneck to their own organization. Why? Because the only way they know how to lead is how they produced, which compels them to jump in and do things for themselves, right? Or overmanage others trying to do it. Either way, it cuts their team off at the knees, and they wonder why no one is motivated, or why people aren't stepping up, or why they're not going the extra mile. So I learned quickly, and quite painfully, that other people operate differently than I do. They work differently. They communicate differently. They are motivated by different things. And there is a real skill to bringing different types of people from different ages and generations and different ethnic races and cultures and different genders and beliefs and personality types and bringing them together. There's a skill in being able to foster collaboration, to draw the best out of each person, and to sync up all those different people, and to operate as an inspired, cohesive, and high-performing team. The skills to be a leader are almost the polar opposite of the skills that it takes to be a producer. And it is very likely that many of you are still operating like a producer, even if you are in a management or leadership position. It is what is keeping you from the next level of success. It is keeping you from growing your bigger enterprise and achieving your bigger mission and making your bigger impact. The bottom line is this: most people in management or leadership positions revert to what they know best. Producing managers and leaders have spent their entire careers being rewarded for their personal subject matter expertise. It's how they got the job to begin with, and it is a very important part of their now personal identity. And continuing to be the hero with their productive work is very validating, and that is tough for them to walk away from. And quite frankly, they don't know any other way. They don't know actual leadership. And this is why I created the leadership development curriculum that many people now know globally called Hero's Journey. It's a skill that is desperately needed, but there is no good training systems out there that are current, that are up to date, and are relevant to this modern work culture that we're all subject to. Let me also point out the difference between leadership and management. Many people get this wrong, and I know that it might sound semantic, like it's just words, but there's a very big difference between the two. You see, both are necessary, but you need to know what role you are in and decide how to best fulfill that role. Is it as a leader or is it as a manager? So if you're taking notes, which I recommend, you might want to write some of these distinctions down. Leadership is figuring out the right things to do. Management is doing those things right. Effective leadership has to do with the quality of the outcome, the right direction to take. Effective management has to do with efficiency, minimizing the time and the resources that it takes to get there. Simply put, the leader is the one who has to have the vision. Where does he or she want the enterprise or the mission to go and why? The manager then figures out how to get there, the best way, and by when. A leader is the one who casts the vision for what's possible. He or she paints the picture of that better future to be had, the grand destination that you will arrive at, the magnificent adventure to be had along the way, and the benefits to everybody involved in the journey. The leader is the one who recruits and enrolls the best and the brightest talent into that glorious dream, and then builds a culture and nurtures and supports that top talent to thrive. The manager, on the other hand, then makes sure that things get done. The manager makes sure everybody does their part, and they are what they're supposed to do, and on time, and with excellence day in and day out. The manager is the one who monitors the details. They make sure that the resources and the supplies and the systems are in place to operate at high performance. Leaders are concerned with people. Managers are concerned with process. Leaders lead people, managers manage work. People follow leaders, people report to and are accountable to managers. Here's some other distinctions, because this is really important you understand where you lie between these two, so that each of you can decide where you fit and whether you are expected to be a leader or whether you're expected to be a manager, and then how to perform to your highest capability. A leader keeps their eyes on the horizon. A manager keeps their eyes on the bottom line. A leader champions that mission, that vision, and a manager drives performance and goal achievement along the way to that mission. A leader is the one who sells people on the ideas and the audacious goals. A manager tells people what to do and the goals to meet. A leader takes risks. A manager minimizes those risks. A leader challenges the status quo. A manager maintains the status quo. A leader thinks long-term. A manager thinks short-term. A leader charts new roads. A manager follows a map. A leader votes with their heart. A manager votes with their head. Let me say this again, because it's really important. One is not better than the other. You need both. You need both leaders and managers. They both serve vital roles in being able to grow and maintain a successful and endurable enterprise. Look, a leader without an effective manager is just chaos. Mayhem is created. And when you have a manager trying to be a leader, the enterprise just stalls, it stagnates, and it barely subsists. It goes into what is known as management mode. And most governments, religious organizations, and large corporations are in that mode. Why? Because they have managers in leadership roles. So I hope that that gave you some significant distinctions about the role of leadership and how it compares to management and who needs to be in each of those roles and why often those that are in those roles, why they need to learn entirely new skills, not necessarily academic knowledge, and not the skills that they've used up to this point in their career to be really great producers. They have to learn the skills of people building. Just because somebody was a great engineer or a great salesperson or a great banker or a great lawyer or plumber or whatever does not mean that they have the slightest idea on how to lead other human beings doing that job. Knowing how to do the technical work is radically different than knowing how to lead the motivations, the emotions, and the human drives of other human beings that they're responsible for leading. So I hope that you got those distinctions.